Welcome back to Tea with HRT. We're kicking off a brand new season, and if you've been following along, you know it's been an exciting journey over the past year. As we step into 2026, we're keeping clarity at the forefront. I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest, Brenda, and joining us as always is Allyns, our CEO and founder, bringing 25 plus years of real-world HR and leadership experience to the conversation. So to start it off, December through February can be a lot for teams. What do you usually notice once February hits and people start hitting their rhythm again?
I think specifically in an agency setting, because a lot of our clients are agencies, and then having myself worked at an agency for, I guess, the past 18 years. I think the beginning of the year it usually starts off with a bang. Everyone comes back from the holidays pretty well equipped to just like take on the world. And it almost feels like employers are like stringing the people along, trying to get them to be like, keep up the pace, like, just let's be back into it. The mindset has to shift a lot because you go from this like place where you're spending time celebrating holidays, giving joy and thanks to each other. And then you end off the year with like celebrating the year that just passed and the year that's ahead of us. And then it's like, boom, it's work. So I'm seeing a lot of just like overwhelm, a lot of overload. And I'm also seeing a lot of over emotional workplaces because there's a lot of businesses who are looking at budgets and clients are looking at budgets and there are layoffs, there are conversations around performance, there are some places that are hiring. It is so emotional right now, and that's what we're seeing amongst a lot of our clients.
Yeah. And usually when people hear work-life integration, like we like to say, in 2026, it's different, right? So what do you think people usually picture versus what it actually looks like day to day?
It's so multifaceted, right? When I was in my younger years of working and starting my family and raising my kids, work-life integration looked really different than what it looks like for me now. So I think work-life integration, you can't kind of bucket it together as one thing for one person or even for a group of people because we all are coming from different situations. Brenda has a very young baby, and Sarah wrote this amazing blog post about a really difficult time that she just went through. And I know I have had many ups and downs in the past couple of years, the past 2 years having the most ups and downs for me from the work-life integration. And for me, it all blended together. I don't think I had anything other than like work and life being the same thing happening around the clock for me. So, we're all in a different stage with that. But I think that at the end of the day, work-life integration is what you want it to be or what you aspire for it to be. Right now, I'm okay that my work and life are really mixed, but I'm going to be moving into a place of like that can't be sustainable for me. And I have to give my time back to my kids, or I have to give time back to parts of the business that are really important. And I think each of us have to just take stock of like, where am I right now? What do I need that's going to keep me moving? What do I need that's going to keep the company moving? And are we all aligned in those goals? Because if you're not, then we're not going to have the work-life integration that we really want to have. So it's like a take stock, figure out what you want, see if we're aligned. And if it's not, make changes because that's what companies do without even, you know, having conversations around it. So I think we need to be honest with ourselves and have those conversations individually.
I think it's also important, especially as we talk about HR. I know, Eileen's like you've hit on this when we've done events like Disrupt HR, of how much HR people internalize because our workplace is so emotional. We deal with so many heavy topics and conversations all the time that it's really important for us to have a boundary of also work-life separation, that like what happens to us on our day-to-day and the difficult conversations we might have to be a part of are not who we are as a person and not our value intrinsically. I mean, Brenda, I think you had said earlier you wanted to touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, like for an example, like terminations, right? As a new leader, it's I find it very emotional and like I'm just sitting here like, does this ever get easier? Like how does like a new leader step away from these tough people decisions without carrying this home? Like how do they separate that?
It is so difficult, especially if you're someone who is a deep feeler. and someone who can emotionally disconnect from situations that are happening. And a lot of HR people are deep feelers. They're very empathetic. They can be very emotional. It's almost the reason why they're in this business is because they are so in tune with other people's emotions. But I'll tell you a story that I've told before about over 20 years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I was tasked with laying off 84 people for a business that I worked with. And they were closing this warehouse, this distribution center in New York. And it was so scary at 20 something years old to get up in front of all these people and to terminate them. And not only did I have to do it in English, but I had to translate and say it in Spanish. And it was so jarring for me being a very young human, I was in my early 20s, being a young HR professional, and then also facing the same layoff myself. It was just a bevy of emotion. It was just so full of a lot. And as I gave the first message in English, people are crying, people are having reactions, and then I have to give the message in Spanish. And now the entire warehouse is erupting. It was a lot. I took that home with me. As soon as I got down from the ladder, I took that into my office with me. I took it home with my family. I couldn't disconnect because not only was it impacting the work and the people around me, but it was impacting my personal life too. I did eventually get an opportunity to stay with the company for a bit longer to help them transition, which was really amazing. That experience never left me. And even as recently as COVID, having to personally call 45 people and speak to them for 20 minutes each and let them know that they were losing their job during the most horrific time in our near history, where people were losing people to an illness. There's a big unknown happening. And, here we are years later, just sort of reflecting on that. I had not just an emotional reaction from having these conversations and being in this position to alter people's lives in a very negative way, I had a physical reaction. I literally spent 2 or 3 hours vomiting after my last call, who happened to be someone on my team. And it was jarring, and my entire family was impacted, and I was impacted for months, just months after that, just from that 45 conversation, really heavy situation. But it does make you stronger. As much as I didn't want to be in any of those positions, it makes you stronger, it makes you smarter, but it doesn't make you perfect. And that's like the big takeaway. It's like when we don't have this ability to offload our emotions somewhere or offload our personal baggage and our business baggage, and all of that seems just so heavy, we can't expect ourselves to be perfect all the time, but we should expect each other to be gracious and kind when we have these conversations, no matter how difficult they are. And that leads to a better work-life integration when you can say, it was a crappy time and I'm sorry, or I didn't handle that the right way, and I'm committing to handling it better the next time, or I learned a lot. And I'm never going to know it all, but I know more than I did before. And I'm going to take that with me. Like, you've got to release it somehow. And therapy helps. I have therapy every week.
I think it's also such a universal experience as somebody who side tangent is a Taylor Swift fan. She recently talked about being on tour and after the terrible things that had happened that caused her tour stop in Austria to be canceled. There's a part in the documentary where she talks about having to be the pilot, and your pilot can't be like, "Oh my God, we're having turbulence and I've never done this before and it's freaking out." It's like, "Hey, it's gonna get a little rocky. We've experienced this before. We're gonna do it. We're gonna be fine and we're gonna get through this." Because nobody wants to be fired by somebody being like, "I hate this for you. I really hate this and this is awful for me," and them sobbing too. You have to put your emotions aside for a minute, but also still give yourself that moment afterwards to be like, "Yeah, what I did was really hard as a person." And I think that's how you as an HR professional lead with heart too, because those conversations are difficult, but if you're so disconnected from it, that also creates a bad
A
experience.
100%. We have to remember that when we're in the situation where we're terminating someone or someone's receiving news, we have to put ourselves in their shoes because they don't care the impact it has on us as the deliverers. They don't care because what's the magic word? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And if you thought, okay, what's in it for me if I was this person? You have to make that best decision. And then the HR person was carrying this baggage needs to have a tribe. You
Mhm.
all need to have people, not that you gossip to, but that you can give some of this emotional offload to. Like, you've got to have a place to put it. And that's why therapy is very important to me because I can't go back to my team and do that. I can go back to my family and do that, or I can go back to my therapist and do that. But there are moments where your HR tribe is there of just like, I've been through that. Here's some tips, or do you want some advice, or do you want to just for me to be an ear? Like, also as HR people, we have to give our the people that are there to support us some sort of advice on how to support us correctly. Because I remember I would just like throw things out of like, this is what my day looked like, and this is what I'm dealing with, and this is so overwhelming for me. I didn't want to hear advice. So I would have to preface it with, because I'd get pissed off if I got the advice, I would say, I just want you to hear me. I just want you to just be there and like hear me out. I don't want to problem solve. I just want to vent. And that was so critical for me as a young and burgeoning HR person. Even now it is, because I will never know it all in HR. That is the beauty of life and learning and working, is that things are changing every day. You're never going to know everything, but you have your tribe and you can lean on them to be those people that support you no matter how you need it, but be explicit about how you need it. And those people that need that got the news, they need that tribe too. Do they have those family members? Do they have those people? Did you give them all the resources they need to find the support that they need when they've lost their job? Super duper important that everyone has to have.
We mentioned earlier that Sarah shared a personal experience in our recent blog post. We'll totally link that in like the description and stuff so everyone can check it out. But what can leaders really take away from moments like that where someone on your team needs to take a step back?
Well, first, I want to say to Sarah, it was so amazing to read the story, even after I had been a spectator in your story. And even though you're not a leader in this organization, you're a leader as part of our team, right? All of us have an expectation to lead something and to be something. So, how was that experience for you, writing it down and being vulnerable and sharing it with us? Because that took a lot of trust to even put that information out there.
I think a lot of it was like I will refer to it, and I think this is like a little dramatic, but like I think about it such like a reset, like when people have near-death experiences, it's like I've fully like reconnected with what's important in my life. And sometimes you just need that hard hit on the head. And that was the thing, like I told my family, I told like anybody who was like around me, I'm like, holy, like I sat in a hospital bed for over a night and really had to be like, you're not going to sit here and worry about like what the client deliverables are on Monday because you're not working on Monday. Like the reality is like you need to learn how to walk again. Like take 10 steps back of like where you're thinking right now and also like realize that like every single person you interact with has that exact same experience. Maybe not on the same thing, but like Brenda, you have Bryson like taking his first steps, and like that's a huge moment, right? And like those are huge things to think about. Or like if Eileen's one of your kids gets sick, like that's a like whole day consumer. And I think like so many people are so work focused that we are only one thing, we're one silo. And like as somebody who has a theater background, like we're taught very much to like get into those emotions and get really like personal and understand it in a way of like, how can I take that experience and make something out of it? Like, make something that helps people, make something that like betters my own experience. What can I take from it? And I think that's like one of the biggest positives I gained out of it was like, rather than sitting there and being like, this stinks, is like how many people were like, I've been through it, or like, get your head together, like, you're gonna get there. Things are gonna happen. Like, the things you are taking as world ending right now are not that and like having perspective. Like, you know, Lindsey Vonn just went through an injury and tore her ACL and she's going to compete in the Olympics. Like, people come back from injury. It's not always like life altering and ending. And that's, I think, the biggest piece of it to me.
I remember right when it happened and we had learned the news from Sarah. And there's this push-pull when you're in my position or even in the position of giving direction to your manager who's like, what are we going to do? And we're a small group, so it's not like we have multiple Sarahs waiting to take Sarah's place in your role. So the first thing we always think about is how are you?
Yeah.
Like, how are you? Are you okay? Right? Once we kind of got over the human aspect of that, it was okay. So we have to kind of come to terms with we have a gap in what we need to get done, and we're going to get it done. But the thing that really surprised me is that Sarah was like really trying to work, and we were like, don't
Mhm.
work. We were like,
Yeah.
not that we've been through what you've been through, but we've been through other things where it's like you may not be able to fully give us your all. And I would rather have a whole Sarah
Yeah.
than a part of Sarah. And it was so commendable that you like accepted that. And it was so admirable that you even wanted to give us all that. But we were like pushing her away. So as a business owner, it's really hard to make that decision of like, of course I want your help. Of
Yeah.
course, that's what we need. But then we thought, but what does Sarah need?
Yeah.
Sarah doesn't need this unless it's like the best distraction in the world.
It was at one point.
It was when you got over the initial, but it's like recognizing what does Sarah need. And also, this brings up a really important topic because we shared like, medical information, right? Like Sarah felt safe enough, and we're an HR company, so it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Sarah felt comfortable to share with us what exactly she was going through, and we were able to respond in both ways as humans, as coworkers, but also from a business standpoint of like, it is okay, take that time that you need. And we shaped it a certain way. So yeah, there's just it's push and pull. And I'm sure Sarah was going through the same push and pull. Like, I want to be productive and I want to work and I want to still feel like I'm contributing. And here we are, like, I want her to contribute. I want her to be part of this. I also want her to heal and be back and like be more ready to go instead of feeling that because I have been there, Sarah, where I feel resentful for not pulling away when I needed to, or giving my family or myself the time to heal. And it's a tough decision to
Oh
make,
yeah.
but it does work out in the end because you get a stronger employee, but you also get an employee who respects and honors and values that trust that you built with each other. So the word to the wise is when there's a medical situation, it's handled a certain way. So talk to HR people about that.
Please.
Please do. And then also, there is a human aspect of it. So acknowledge the human aspect of it. But also, the only thing that brings us together, Sarah, for now, is our work relationship. So
Yeah.
there's this very clear line of like, we know each other because we work together. There is a work relationship. There's an expectation from Sarah of me and me of Sarah.
Yeah.
And so we honored that, but also allow the human aspect of it all to come in. So, there's definitely a delicate balance there, but that trust definitely existed. And so for employers who don't have that trust, you have to build those trusts. There's micro moments of how you build that trust. And it's going back to that person and creating this like human element to everything that you do. That's what AI can't do for you. And please don't use AI to even put the scripts together to talk to your employees about things. Just like really come from the heart and like come from the human aspect of you.
I think the even biggest part of that to me is like also expect that things change. Like I came back Monday and I was like, okay, well, I had this happen Friday. Monday, I'm going to be ready to work. And I think I worked like 2, 3 hours that day and was like, I can't do it.
Right.
And like having that dialogue open to be like, yeah, I'm not ready to be back and I need to like take more time. And I thought it like because I work remote that this would be something I could do, and it's not. And like being able to have that conversation around where you're at, I think is so vastly important, especially with injuries of all sorts. Like nobody fully knows their capacity until you test it and you're going, okay, well, this is a little like I am in the deep end, can't do it.
100%. Your health is so important to who you become at work and who you can be at work and how your performance is evaluated. So take that time as an employee and even to my fellow business owners out there, I'm definitely not going to be the best leader I can be if I don't take that time to take care of myself. And I've been on the other side of like ignoring that naggy feeling. And then guess what? Your body does completely shuts down and forces you to do it when you're not ready. But all of us have a way of doing that. And we can keyword each other like, Sarah, you need some time. Or Brenda, I think you need the day off, right? Like you all can tell me the same thing. And I could say, I don't have the time. But when something smacks you in the face, like you said, if my kid is sick and I have to run out to pick him up from school, I had to do that. And that's more important, right?
Still talking about taking a step back. This episode is, well, we plan to release it on HRT's eighth anniversary date. And we kind of wanted to do like an 8 years of reflection with you. Looking back to year one of HR Transform, what is something that stayed the exact same? And what is something that still surprises you about this work that we do?
Okay, so HRT honestly was created because someone said to me, you can't keep giving away advice for free. You can't keep being an HR person for everyone else for free. And it planted the seed of, wow, this could actually be a company that I would really enjoy working in and working on. So what hasn't changed is my relationship with that person. We text often, we send photos to each other of things that we see around the world, and that encouragement of you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing. Here's this wonderful photo. That support was just there at that time and still there. Even with my very first sort of like bigger client, I get to talk to that client every month as a mentor. And it's just so amazing that through this journey, I've been able to keep the relationships that got me to even start this company in place up until now. So I'm really, really grateful for those two. And you'll get a text later today.
And what is something that still surprises you about the work that you do, even after 8 years?
Oh gosh, you know what it is? Honestly, the first thing that popped in my head is that no one HR situation is the same ever. And it is 28 years in, and it's like, well, haven't you experienced this before? I'm like, yes and no. It's like not quite. All of these things that we have to work on in the HR sphere when it comes to employee relations specifically are so unique to that individual and to that company that there is a great foundation to make decisions off of. But there's no exact, like, this exact thing happened at this exact time with this exact company, right? I love that part of it, and it always surprises me that I am just constantly creating something new, a new script, a new direction, a new this or that based on people things that we work on. So I love that part of it. I mean, what a better way to learn than to just be in it and have your hands in it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Allyns. I feel like we've gotten so much of like the full picture together of like how to grow yourself and also how to maintain that, right?
Right.
Once we get there, like how we're still growing but still maintaining our space. So I have to ask my favorite question of all questions. What are you drinking?
Okay, but I also have to talk about the cup
Mhm.
because I got this cup in Canada.
Oh.
Cute.
One of my highlights of last year was spending time with Brenda in Canada with our client doing a disc training. And so I'm having my caramel decaf coffee in my Canada cup.
Speaking of Canada, Brenda,
I am just about finished my coffee. I just take a regular coffee every day. Yeah. And you, Sarah?
I have my typical cold brew. I feel like I haven't changed at all.
Perfect.
So, with the start of the season, cheersing to having a separated life, a balanced life, and determining that for yourself.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on Tea with HRT. We hope you got some laughs, some insights, and maybe even a few things you can actually use. If you like this episode, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell a friend. Find us on social media, links are all in the description, and let us know what you think or what you want to hear more about at tea@hrtransformed.com. Catch you next time on Tea with HRT.